a week or so, ago, and 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 decided that we would have a bit of a chat about New Zealand as its own entity. And so I've channeled and been given quite a bit of information about New Zealand over time. And you two may or may not have things to chip in, but certainly feel free to ask questions, and I may or may not be able to answer them. But I I felt that it was useful to speak about our unique role in the world, So I've been doing this work with Gaia for 10 years come Easter, and quite a long time ago, I had this vision of these beings with a pole and a kerchief over the end, over their shoulder, and they were walking across the ocean to New Zealand. And so that was an early vision that I was given. And when I asked what that referenced, I was told that many people would pilgrimage to New Zealand at some point, and that, oh, I go all goosey when I say that. I've got goosebumps everywhere. Um, and that there were a couple of reasons, and one is because we hold codes for the rest of the world. And so spiritual leaders will be sent here, they will pilgrimage here. They won't necessarily walk on water, but that they will pilgrimage here to pick up the codes, to get their bare feet on the land. And it's likely that there'll be an exchange of codes. I imagine, they will bring codes from their own land and lead them here, and then pick up our codes and take them back to their countries. And it's this whole sort of network of codes for the evolution of our new Earth. So, and it was just an interesting vision. And and then I was shown how this idea about New Zealanders being somnambulistic. And the most somnambulistic people in the world is what Gaia said to me. And when I said to her, well, what does that mean? Because I didn't know the word. She said they are the most sleepwalking people on the planet. And when New Zealanders wake up, when New Zealanders awaken, then the rest of the world can awaken. So I think that's to do with a couple of things. I feel it's to do with um, a, a variety of perspectives, really. So I'll just state them, and then you might have things to add in. So one is that we really sit at the southernmost point of the planet, or the northernmost point, depending on that philosophy, and that we see the dawn first. So the sun rises here first. So we're known in spiritual circles as the land of first light. And so the dawn arrives here, and so it's the light can come from here and out through the world. And then in another reference, you could see that we are a part of the ancient Lemurian times. And so I've been shown that our land is related to that, so we hold some of those codes as well. And and that the light, it's like when New Zealanders stand up and sort of put our pole, our in the ground, our stick in the ground, and say enough is enough, then this can roll out, and the rest of the world can, I guess, come into their higher way of being. So there's that kind of notion. And I was shown that spiritual leaders from around the world would come here, and they would come here to pick up their codes. And what has been interesting to me in the work I've done over the past sort of, well, 8 years of seeing clients, is that I had this year where I had so many people who came to me, and I started second guessing myself, because I was telling so many of them, "Oh, you're having a retreat, and it's going to be here, and it's going to be related to this," and and I would think, "Oh, am I just making this up? This seems outrageous." But they would reflect back by saying, "I already have bought that piece of land, and what you're saying is is perfectly related to the vision that I have for it, or yes, I've got this vision for that. I've seen that vision and I don't know where it is, and that's why I've come because I wanted you to show me where the land is that I'm meant to go and look. And so lots and lots of retreats in the northern part of, and it's not that that will be the only place, but lots of retreats that will be created in the northern part of New Zealand, north of Urua is what I was showing,
Mm-hmm.
and retreats for all sorts of things. So retreats for music, and retreats for writers, retreats for yoga, for meditation, for psychic development, for food, the whole sort of gamut of new ways of being in our new world. And there are people who already know that that's what they are to do, and there are definitely people who have begun those visions, I guess, putting them into place. So that aspect. And then we sit on this ancient landmass that I've always been shown as part of ancient Lemuria, and that we will rise up. So that we will rise up as a people and we will rise up as a landmass. So geographically, I'm showing that New Zealand rises up, so there's more of it. There's more of
Mm.
this land mass and it rises up and then it kind of tilts. Sounds funny, but it rises more along the east coast than it does on the west coast. And so, we'll become this bigger land mass. And then there's the referencing of Freddie Silver, who has done a lot of research into many countries around the world to look at the ancient kind of footsteps of humanity. And so he has been and investigated many land masses to find the most ancient something, the most ancient site or the most ancient installation in countries to see, what were the migratory patterns. And so he kind of toppled everything upside down when he came here because he found the most ancient symbol was actually Egyptian. And
Where was
so,
that, Sharon?
pardon?
Where did you find that?
He found that in the South Island, up on a ridge line around where Castle Hill is, the Kura Taf. I wrote it when I went and checked it. Tawhiti, which is Castle Hill. So if you were in the sort of center of the South Island around that Bennydale area, I think it is, Springfield, Bennydale, it's the ridge line more to the west, looking into Castle Hill. And have you ever been to Castle Hill?
Mm.
Yeah, so huge rocks
Amazing.
and there's just faces everywhere, and there's said to be an ancient mystery school that was set up there in a circle, and there's a lot of ancient lore around it from ancient Māori legends as well. So that
Mm.
kind of is where our history begins. And I was thinking today about how in the waka, how the prow of the waka and those great big, I don't even know what they're called, but those big carved or painted um,
Mm.
bow pieces, they're very reminiscent of some of the Egyptian craft that we know of from the Nile. So it's
Mm.
interesting. I think that there's more for us to learn
I'd like
about that.
I'd like to just confirm that because years ago I was at Sharda doing some template work with the friend Ginny I was telling you about, Sharon, and the Maori elders that were there told me that there was an ancient story around the Maori and the Egyptians, and that it was the rising up of I think it was the divine feminine through New Zealand and the divine masculine in Egypt coming together. Wow. That was
Mm,
really interesting. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, there's definitely like a lot of well, New Zealand's just full of portals, really. But
I think that they're starting to open up again. We're starting to have these sort of soft spots around the country, and you notice, when you're walking, that suddenly, you get this shimmer and you get this energy and this frisson, and you are feeling that softness of, those interdimensional moments that
Mm,
you have when you're sort of near portals. And Castle Hill is, a very activating point for so many people. But I was approached by two Maori women to walk up the sort of very steep part of Castle Hill at 3 a.m. And I was very unprepared because it was unexpected. But I got in the car and went down there, and we there was about six of us, and we climbed, literally rock climbed up the cliff face in the pitch black, and I lost everybody on the way up. I lost everyone. So I was with them all, and suddenly there was nobody. And
oh,
I had no idea where anyone was. I was calling out. There was nothing. It was silent, but nobody was answering me. And I got to the top, and I sat down and I was calling out, no answer, nothing. And then all of a sudden the hand went like this, and I lay down, and I lost, I don't know, a couple of hours. And then when I came to, it was dawn, and everyone was standing around me, and they were all doing, whatever they were doing. And I couldn't move. I felt like I was made of lead. And they managed to like half carry me across to they call it the Guardian Stone, this huge sort of monolithic stone on one of the ridges. And they lay me down at the Guardian Stone, and all I was in and out of dimensions. I could hear voices and rushing water and all sorts of things that going on. And every time I tried to drag myself up, this hand would just push me back down again. And I was out till about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I just
wow.
could not move, and they just worked around me. And they said, yeah, all the ancestors were stepping in and speaking and doing stuff, and then leaving, and it was crazy.
Yeah, I get around that it was your, it's an interesting way of viewing it. It was like your ancestral lineage through the bloodlines, but in quite a physical, tangible way in your body.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and I don't have Maori blood in me in this lifetime, but I've definitely had visions of sitting in a forest, and I've had the rolling voice of my grandfather, and I've been a little boy, just living in the forest, and he's just been telling me the stories of my lineage and my past, and he's been embedding them. I could feel them being embedded into my DNA. And so I think many of us are, having incarnations into white bodies when we've been, maybe Tibetan, indigenous people. There's many, many people, and I think this is why we identify with maybe certain indigenous tribes and shamans and whatever. Um, not because we want to culturally appropriate, but I do believe that there is many body jumps
Mm,
as we try and bring those Eastern philosophies and those lineages into the Western world to try and bring back some of that magic and some of those openings to help accelerate sort of the white people, if you like, accelerate the Western world into what was really sort of stripped and taken from these indigenous people all over the world,
hmm.
and
Well, one of the
bring it
things that,
back.
sorry,
No, no.
one of the things that Gaia explained to me is that many of us have had an experience of a lifetime in each of the geographic regions of the world and in each of the indigenous cultures
Mm,
with each of the languages. And so it it references, this remembering of things when we visit those places where we are activated, and this is all part of our recognition of this part of unity consciousness, this aspect of the oneness is that, we're all connected at some point. Um, that's hard to define in our lineal world, but that idea that we've each had an experience of all of
Mm,
that.
absolutely.
Yeah, I can certainly relate to what you said about many people being called here. I know when I came here on holiday in 2006, I just felt so at home here. And it was the land and the sea here, and just the energy. I felt like a different person. And I had to come back, so I left all my family and came on my own. And yeah, I've been here ever since. And I think that's happened to quite
Mm,
a few people who found New Zealand.
Yes, yes, absolutely. As does it happen for New Zealanders finding other places where they want to place their feet. There's some recognition of, a connection
Mm.
to there. So yeah, it seems to be our role to awaken as humanity here, and I believe that it's very much linked to the dawn opens here first, and we're known as the land of first light, and that we have quite a lot of indigenous roots, indigenous ways of operating that more and more people are becoming familiar with, including, having mid-eye experiences and having greater understanding about the karanga and about waiata and about the connection to the land and the roles that people have played in the past. So
mm,
I I feel it's an exciting time of this remembering who we are as beings of the land, and of course the tikanga of the Māori is that it's great in its teaching for the way that we communicate the to the earth, and this activation of the sentient life is what Gaia has been speaking about recently, that all sentient life has had three activations now, so all the sort of node points are enlivened, and so there's this greater opportunity for us to be in dialogue with nature.
mm.
And so this is another way of our feeling more connected to the elements, to the fire, the air, the water, the land.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the elementals are really, really being activated at the moment, and I have also noticed, and I'm sure you have, Sharon, that um, there is this huge amount of people that have been doing land clearing.
Mm,
And so a huge amount of healing has been happening on the land. I've had some really unexpected and amazing experiences working with clients who say have very stuck energy on their land, very trapped souls, and then we get them to go and do some research, and they just find that their whole um, property was basically running blood at certain periods in time,
hmm
and the clearing that starts coming through, the ancestors that start coming through, and the grief and the pain that starts getting released when that's finally recognized and honored by the people that are living on it is quite enormous, and it's allowing the ancestors to start leaving. So that's another thing I'm really noticing the more I work with people with these long lineages, um, is that as the ancestors get their recognition, as they can grieve through you, as they can release, then they too can leave. Their guardianship is able to be released into our hands again, and there is more trust in us as the katiaki of the land to move forward and protect nature again, to bring forth the elements again, to start using the quantum realms where the elements are so entwined, and just really start having these experiences again where we are merging and coming into these deeper states of consciousness that use the elements so that we can evolve in the correct way rather than the inverted way.
Yeah, beautifully stated. Reminds me of an experience I had with a woman who has land in Kotunu, which is on the Coromandel. And I visited her and she said, I've had this very strange thing happen. And and it was that she had basically these Māori uh, ghosts, if you like, walking
Mm,
through her space.
mm,
And she said to me, I don't know what to do with it. That's just been going on and on and on. And so her and I tuned in and information that we got, well, first of all, we held space for them. So we noticed that they were single file moving across through her property and up to this crystal mountain. So where she is based, where some of the land that she it has a mountain really that's full of crystal, and so they were moving up to there, and we saw energetically or etherically that they were boarding a spaceship, and so we knew that what was happening was that we were just holding space for them to leave. And we did that, I kid you not, for 5 hours. And so
wow.
for 5 hours we held space while these men, they were men, Māori men, were leaving. And when that finished, I tuned in and I asked the chiefs, tell me what that was all about. And so it's a really interesting story that they told me, and they said we have we have stayed here physically in our energetic physical on the land to hold the density down to keep this land safe. This land is very sacred and it needs to not go into the wrong hands. And so that was the story they gave me,
Yeah.
that they'd stayed in there until such a time as it was safe for them to exit.
Mm,
So that was an interesting story that came through.
amazing.
I have heard that. What do we think about the idea that the death space has people have not been able to leave the planet as well for some time? It's an idea that I've heard several people talking about, and maybe
Mm,
relates to that story as well. That sort of dome or
mm,
exclusion zone around the Earth is lifting, starting to lift as we.
mm. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to tell. You might have more on this, Sharon, but when I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing, I can't. I, I guess the feeling is that there was such grief and suffering when they left
Mm,
that there was some kind of energetic uh, bond that didn't allow them to leave fully. It didn't feel to me like it was completely choice to stay, mired in pain in the earth, but that there was imprints of that pain and suffering left behind, and that needed, some freedom. But I do believe that, based just on a vision that I had very clearly some years ago, where when I saw, how the planet used to be, and just such beauty and such harmony, and it was just, absolute paradise.
yes.
And then there was like this kind of fall, which ties in perfectly with the Bible, right? The Garden of Eden, and then Eve giving Adam the apple, and then the fall, and then the woman being blamed. So the woman then has to, become subservient to the male, and so this tie-in sort of it's like an interweaving of that story, but how I saw it was we were in this harmonic state, and there was an invasion of some sort. Whether
Mm,
it was an invasion of the mind or a physical invasion, it looked kind of like both to me, like an invasion of the mind first and then a physical. And most people tried to get out, most beings, and then some stayed. They knew they would have to stay to close down all the portals, to put that dome around the planet, to put that planet into lockdown, and to prevent any further loss of life or density to
mm,
any other realms. That was how it sort of came through to me, and the subjugation of women who held the codes, a lot of the codes to the rise again, being a female planet, and being very subjugated for thousands of years, has been intertwined with keeping that density. And now there's this rise of her, the awakening, the these changes that are happening to bring us more into balance and harmony again, that are allowing for a lot of these other movements of energy around the planet.
yes, yes, because we really are rising back to being paradise here on Earth, to our Edenic state. And so there's been this balance and imbalance, this intrusion in a whole lot of ways, including into the masculine. But now we're coming into this more harmonious way of being able to empower one
Mm,
another to rise and be in this higher fifth dimensional experience of being human on Earth as the planet also ascends to that fifth dimensional
mm,
space. And so I've always been shown that um a great deal of interest was shown in coming to our planet to rescue our planet. So our planet was really on the edge of its demise into coming into this dark, dead um,
yeah.
place. But many of us came to be part of this rescue mission. And and some beautiful things that Gaia has said to me is she said, we will return to our rightful place in the galaxy as the crown jewel of the galaxy, the intergalactic destination place, and the living library of the universe.
Mm,
And so
beautiful.
that is something that we're on the edges of,
Mm,
and it has that feel to it that we're on the edges of that
mm,
now. And so there's a lot of cyclic loops, like in a way we're having this rerun of our Atlantean lifetime. So many of us who are here and awake and aware now have come to rewrite the what happened in Atlantis.
mm,
And so we're not going to have that whole thing happen again. So there's that aspect as well, and then there's this sort of the special place that New Zealand holds on the map, and as this in its I guess in its innocence and its glory, it's this beautiful piece of land, and even people who have no real spiritual aspect to them when they come here, they feel it. They feel the
mm,
energy of this land, and they notice it when they touch down. So it does hold an energy of its own that's very special. So that's what I was showing, is that when New Zealanders wake up, when New Zealanders
mm,
stand up and awaken in a spiritual sense, it's like the permission slip
mm,
the permission slip for the rest of the world to awaken and for us to have this ascension experience. And I am showing that we are likely to have something um, that is either a component of that or the whole thing by the end of April of this year. And
wow.
so it might be that there's just a like a proportion of humanity that does that. So I've been shown it in a number of different ways. But yeah, definitely there's this opportunity for some kind of ascension experience into a fifth dimensional way of being by the
Mm,
end of April. And so light workers lead the way with that by holding that light, by carrying the torch, by doing the work. So, it's our
mm,
job to do our shadow work and to integrate. And so we're in this experience of being asked to integrate our shadow and our light, our
mm,
history and our future, if you like, all
mm,
merging in from the front, from the back, and from above. So we're really, and it's another way of talking about coming into the 0 point so that we can then recreate this paradise on earth and this fifth dimensional experience where life will be very Edenic and we will begin to sort of rebuild earth as it's meant to be. So yeah, lots of people will pilgrimage here to pick up their codes, to take back to their land and to swap codes as well.
mm.
And we'll begin to see more and more and more of that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that in those migratory patterns. People going to another place, dropping their codes, moving, moving, moving. It's moving the codes around, and I think that was a real Waitaha thing
Yeah.
as well. As they believe they were the water bearers. They believed in moving around the world, mixing DNA. Taking the codes around the world basically, and yeah, very much that integration and strengthening of everything.
Yes. And I think the opposite end of that has been why we've been so compressed, why we've been under so much pressure, why we've been pushed to the edge in terms of some of the events that have happened around the world. Maybe even why we went into that very strong lockdown. So always, whatever these events are, we can see them from so many perspectives. So we
Mm,
could see that we were in that put into that place because we're small, we're contained, and maybe we weren't going to fight back, and we're isolated, and we are we've people often talk about our being a little test nation. Um, I'm not sure that I agree with that, but that is a perspective that people speak of. And then there's this idea that, we hold this land, we sit in this land that holds special codes. And so there's about keeping that sort of encapsulated so that the rest of the world doesn't awaken as well. So there's a few sort of angles and perspectives that we can look at about who we are and yeah, the darkness as well, So I remember when I first heard something about tunnels and I thought, oh, I wonder whether I can remote view that. I didn't know if I could remote view, but I thought, oh, I wonder if I can. And so I did a scan and I was quite surprised as to what I got shown. And that there's, this labyrinth really of tunnels right through our country and um, including like underwater tunnels and entrances for submarines and under mountains and harbors. And that, then we heard, of course, during the whole COVID thing about people from other parts of the world having purchased luxury houses with bunkers and things like that, especially around the Queenstown, Wakatipu kind of area. So yeah, there's a few different threads, a few different ways that we can view what's gone on here.
mm, mm,
I've read many books about tunnels, ancient tunnels that I think exist. The ones underneath the Romanian pyramid and Sphinx that go to Egypt, to
Yes.
India, and to, I think, Iran as well.
Hmm.
So I think that those tunnels have been around for a very long time, and I
the
think that they
Bosnian
are,
tunnels.
yeah, they're
They're
very
all over the
Mm,
all over
world
the
and
world.
they're under the ocean beds as well.
Yeah, very, very deep.
Mm.
And I think that they, in those books from the Romanian books series, they talk about them being, they can, you can move through them very quick because they're sort of portals in effect.
Yes, I remember listening to somebody speak about them, calling them, I think maglev or maglev, and my understanding of it is that they run on an anti-gravitational system,
Mm.
and so they can move at speeds that we don't think are possible.
Yes, yeah.
Wow, yeah.
I have a
What?
question. Oh, sorry, go on,
Mm.
you go, Mel.
No, I have a question too. You go first.
Okay, well, I wanted to ask you both what you think of this idea that's been talked about since who's the lady that did the quantum healing hypnotherapy? Dolores Cannon.
Oh, yes.
And very many people since then as well talk about this bifurcation idea where a certain amount of people will move into 5D. They've made that choice on a soul level, and other people have decided, you know, that they want to stay in a 3D level. What's your ideas on that?
I, I, oh, go on. You go,
You,
Melly.
oh no, no. I mean, I definitely feel this bifurcation, but I don't feel it as in we picked a path and we're going off like that. But for me, the way it gets shown is like a scattergram, and everyone on the scattergram is a dot,
Yeah.
and there's the line, that goes up, and we're all somewhere on that chart, and some of us are maybe a little bit closer to movement into another dimension, and that it's more like, I don't know about you girls, but I'm just not coming across as many, like, people that are really dense in their energy. I just seem to go like that. I just don't really come across them very much. Like, it's unusual. And so I'm just noticing that this almost folding um, into another dimension, and you're still there. Everyone's still there, but there's just this kind of the magnetics are taking them further away.
Hmm.
But then if they decide that they have a big opening, and they have a big movement, then they're immediately going to start moving closer. So for me, it's all magnetic. It's magnetics. Everything in the quantum realm is magnetics. So everything is either polarizing us or magnetizing us. And we are currently, the more we work through our density, our shadow self, our pain, our shame, the more we start to work through that, integrate it, accept it, love it, take everything in as part of who we are rather than trying to reject it.
Yeah.
Um, the more we do that work, the more space we create for light. And the more light that we bring in, the easier it is for us to start moving into that toroidal flow of sort of abundant quantum energy, I guess. And that is moving into another dimension, just gradually. But everyone, in my view, has that opportunity, that ability. It's just that we're all on the scattergram doing it at different rates and different times. How about you, Sharon?
Yeah, I think there's probably half a dozen different ways we can describe it, and I like that. That's lovely. A couple of ways that I've been shown. Gaia showed it to me as like, what did she call it? Uh, ink on wet blotting paper. And that those who are awake are like the blob of ink,
Mm,
and the world is the wet blotting paper. And so as we come into greater vibration, if you like, and higher frequency, that impacts everybody. Another way I've been showing it is it's like the light quotient vote. So as each fills more with light, um, that that starts to spread, and when it becomes the majority, if you like. It's like the democratic vote by light
Yes,
quotient.
the spiral turns. Yeah.
Yes, and so then the planet can shift.
Mm,
Um, and and the other thing that you spoke of is this Taurus. So the I am showing that the Taurus or the toroidal field, it's always shown up for me in the series of it's even hard to define, but it's like one feeds into the other. So we have a Taurus in our energetic heart, and the Taurus in our energetic heart links into the Taurus in our physical body, and that Taurus links into the Taurus of our maybe our own country, but certainly our planet, and then that Taurus links into the Taurus of the galaxy. And so we're all interrelated, and as we develop greater flow, that moves into greater flow in that series of things. And so how Gaia showed it to me is that our intrusion was being reversed now. So this year she has talked about we are turning inside out and upside down, and it comes with that the fact that we've been told things that are back to front, and now they're
mm,
being put back to original divine plan blueprint. We're beginning to remember who we are, where we come from, why we're here, and we're beginning to realize that we have a lot of magic, really. We have a lot of powers that we're beginning to remember, and that's going to have quite a big impact. So that's just another way of seeing it. But
mm,
if if we and when we, because I do believe it's when when we get to that place that she described to me, we will have beings from around the galaxy and beyond come here, but they won't come until they can be received and we are okay with it. It's
mm,
not going to be an invasion. It will be that they arrive by invitation, and then we will begin to. A guy gave it this name. We will have a galactivation. We will become galactivated. We will become citizens of the galaxy, where we
mm,
will have developed our skills again, and we will be able to. We'll become more telepathic. We'll have more of that sort of communication, and what we have here is really beautiful and sought after. But I am showing that we're very protected. We won't. Like, we are not going to muck it up as a species now, and the planet isn't going to. It's too valued. It's too valued. And so we have a lot of guardianship, I believe, from other planets and other species, and really we are their offspring. And so some of us will have some galactic or planetary memories of where we come from. Some of us will have that as a knowing. Some of us are blends and hybrids. And we came here. We came here really, those who are at least first wavers. We came here to rescue the planet from its demise, because this planet is held as something very special and unique in the multiverse.
mm. I love that. Love that. That's probably a beautiful way to wrap up, isn't it?
Yeah, probably is.
Mm,
I just want
I
to add
think.
one minute that
Mm,
those children are already here. Some of them, the telepathic children,
Yes,
they're the autists. I went to a webinar, an all-day webinar the other day, and one of them where they were all expressing. It was about water. It was a very
yes,
open thing, and they were expressing how water is like the consciousness and the information, the light information from source, from God,
mm,
and how the creatures of the water, and when the land receives the water from the clouds, it's all. information, and that's how we receive our messages from God. And it's
Mm.
beautiful
Yes,
what they say.
yes.
Yeah.
I went to a
So
Veda
beautiful.
Austin retreat where I heard that information, but it also matched with information that I was given from the whales, because the whales told me in March of last year that they were receiving the codes. They were receiving the new codes into the waters. They were the new codes of consciousness, and that they were releasing them into the waters of the planet, the internal waters, the oceans, the rivers, the waterfalls, and that they were releasing them into the cycles, and the birds would the ancient birds, they that was what showed up, these huge birds with great wings were moving them through the air. And so there was this story about that. And then more recently I was shown that the white beluga whale and the blue whale met at the Bering Strait, and they um feel they like I
Beautiful.
just they handed over the mantle. So I was shown that the blue whales have held the codes for us here during this time, and now the white beluga whales are bringing in the crystalline codes. And so it was the ceremony I witnessed of the blue whales handing it over to the beluga whales. And it was all channeled, and I went and verified it by checking, because I didn't even know what a beluga whale looked like except for the vision that I had. And I didn't know I didn't know where the Bering Strait was. And it's perfectly aligned with the story.
Oh.
And so I got shown that the blue whales they will leave their posts here, really,
Mm.
and that there'll be very few of them that will stay beyond 2030.
Yeah.
So we will see a lot of the blue whales that leave and that die and are washed up. But yeah, they've handed over to the white beluga whales, who are releasing the crystalline codes into the water. And so there's this incredibly beautiful cycle of the codes coming through the
Mm.
waters. And then, of course, you can see that we house that in terms of the plasma in our bodies, and they are our codes of
Mm.
consciousness.
Mm.
So we're beginning to have a greater understanding of the way in which we all interrelate.
Mm.
Yeah,
Have to have
maybe.
another session sometime to carry
Yeah.
on this conversation. So interesting.
And maybe if we all just have a final word to leave people with some hope, and mine would be to remember that nothing dies, that the body changes, we move from place to place, just like we do physically from country to country, taking codes and dropping wherever we go. We also move from body to body, changing codes and taking codes from one time and place to another. And that eternal symphony of souls just endlessly plays out in the vastness of all that is. And to just remember that when things seem tough.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I just spent a weekend with a friend helping her say goodbye to her dog. And,
Mm.
the minute he left, we could feel him all around us. And especially
Mm.
she could feel him in her heart. And he sent her a message and said, I'm no longer Tahi. I'm a gazillion things. And
Wow.
you could feel him
Oh,
everywhere.
got chills.
Yeah.
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 And that's how I feel about, my dog. And
Yeah.
it's when you lose someone, they're still there. We just don't have that physical presence. But yeah, that's a really good reminder.
Mm.
Yes, and actually our real nature is to be eternal. And although we're not quite there yet, we're returning to that.
Mm.
And there's something about the activation of that in our system as well. I think it's to do with I think I got shown it's to do with the S4 vertebrae.
Mm.
But yeah, these are part of our codes that are being returned to us, all link into that.
Mm.
So we've there's it's exciting, and we've got lots to learn. We've had our DNA snipped and shortened and rearranged, and now we're
Yeah,
working on lengthening the telomeres and restoring to our original 12 strands of DNA, which, you know, might be able to happen like that. Who knows?
yeah,
Sounds good to me.
beautiful.
All right.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thanks
It's
so
a
everyone.
much,
beautiful
ladies.
time for us to
It's,
be here, and anybody
yeah,
who's on the earth. It's
yeah,
a real privilege for us to be here in this cycle and in this
it
time.
is.
Yeah.
It is.
Sorry.
And we asked for this and we're getting it. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we need to embrace it. It's been so lovely chatting to you, ladies. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.